going to go all the way back to the source of the flour that we use for our whole grain bread making. And of course it starts with a stalk of wheat. Now, believe it or not, knowing a little bit more about the parts of the wheat, the anatomy, will actually help you understand why we do some of the things that we do when we're making bread. So to make this a little bit more interesting, a little bit more concrete and useful in your mind, hopefully in a way that you won't forget, I'm going to compare this stalk of wheat and the kernels of wheat to something you're very familiar with, which is a carton of eggs. So we'll start with the wheat, and I'm just going to pull off some of these kernels. They're all nice and neatly arranged in here, just like the eggs are in the carton there. And I'm just going to strip some of the kernels off, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, some of the husk is staying on the stalk and some of it is coming off. So what I'm going to do is just kind of take my thumb and sort of grind into these to separate all of the husks from the kernels of wheat. This is what it looks like after I just lightly ground the wheat into my hand for a few seconds. And you'll notice there's kind of some little papery looking pieces here, and that's called the husk. The husk is just the container that holds all of these little grains of wheat onto the stalk, and I'm going to blow lightly on my hand and it's just going to blow away. Okay, so mostly have that all separated out, and I'm just going to put it down here next to the stalk so you can see what it looked like on the stalk before. Now the husk has mostly been removed, and this is what we have left. These are little kernels of wheat, or wheat berries as they're called. When you go to buy them in the store, you will look for wheat berries, and this is what they look like. So we just removed the wheat berries from the husk, and going back to our egg carton analogy, the husk is also sometimes called the hull, and it serves the same purpose that this egg carton does. It keeps everything nice and neat and organized and attached to the stalk in the wheat, and these eggs can be removed from the carton. And the carton, the husk, is just packaging. We don't want to use that at all. And now we're going to focus on the wheat berry itself. Now this is the real wheat berry, but these are too small to take apart and show you very easily. But this, from now on, we're going to pretend is one of these little wheat berries. And I'm going to show you the different parts. There are 3 parts that correspond almost exactly with an egg anyway. So I'm going to start by breaking this egg and cracking it open into its respective parts, which of course are the egg white, and the egg yolk, and the egg shell. Now here we have a close-up of the 3 main parts of the wheat berry. Now remember, this is no longer an egg. This is our model representing a single grain of wheat. The wheat bran is like this shell. The wheat germ is the embryo, the baby wheat plant, and the endosperm surrounds the germ, and it serves as its food source for the developing plant. Now, when the wheat comes into the big flour milling factories, it's not the same at all of them. Some of the smaller ones don't do it exactly this way, but in the big ones, the wheat gets separated into these parts right away. Even if it's going to be sold as whole wheat flour, it gets separated into these parts. Then some of the parts are blended back together according to what type of flour is being made. So there are a lot of different types of flour that are made for the processed food industry. Besides just the few kinds of flour that you see in the baking aisle at the store, there are lots of different blends made from different types of wheat. So think of wheat like you would think of varieties of apples. You know, some types of apples are best for baking in pie, and others are better for eating out of hand, and there's all different colors and varieties. And it's the same with wheat. It has, some varieties have more protein in them than others, some have more moisture, and they're all used for different things. Now the problem is when they blend parts back together, it's not always going to be in the same proportion coming out that went in. Some manufacturers may leave out as much as 50% of the bran, so that would be like taking away this much of the bran. And some of them even take away all of the germ, and that leaves it just brown enough brown flecks in it that it looks nice and healthy. So that means that you may not have as much bran with the endosperm, the proportion that Mother Nature intended, because they take some of it out and they sell it for other purposes. There's very lucrative market for the many different byproducts of the milling process. Some of them go to health food stores and are sold as supplements and things that you can add to recipes. A lot of it goes to the livestock industry. So that's just one of the reasons that I like to grind my own flour, because I know that when I put the grains of wheat into my mill, all of it comes out, nothing is getting removed. And so I like knowing that I'm really and truly getting all of it. So let's talk just a little bit more about the bran. It's the, I'll put this back in there because we're going to assume that we're going to get all of that in our recipe. The bran is just like this eggshell. It's the protective outer layer for the wheat. It locks all the nutrition inside until it's broken open. Now, bran is actually several layers thick. Here's some little flakes. I'll kind of show you what it looks like if you haven't ever bought it before. But it makes up about 15% of the total grain of wheat. It contains some vitamins and some minerals, but its most important function for our diet is that it provides insoluble fiber. In fact, that's one of the main reasons for eating whole grains. The reason why you hear so much preaching about it within the food guide pyramid and all of that is because of the fiber content. The germ is the smallest part of the wheat. It's less than 5% of the total, but since that's where the new life comes from, the embryo, it's just power-packed with lots of nutrients. It's got vitamin E, folic acid, other B vitamins, protein, and fat. The germ, and it looks like this, I'll show you. The germ also contains wheat germ oil. And by the way, this is usually extracted for cosmetics and pharmaceuticals and supplements because it's such an important source of vitamin E for us. It's one of the best sources that there is, and that's another reason why you should eat whole grains. But the problem with the wheat germ oil, and one of the reasons why we even have white flour today, is because the oil in the wheat germ turns rancid and it causes the flour to spoil. And that's what rancid means. It means spoiling or decaying. So like if you've ever eaten nuts or seeds that have gone rancid, they taste very bitter. They have a very bad aftertaste. You may not even have known that you were eating something that was rancid. You might have just thought that was the way it tasted. And so some people think that they don't even like walnuts, and for that reason. And it's the same with wheat flour. They associate a bad taste that they had from one time eating rancid flour possibly, and they don't want to bake with it. They don't want to buy it at the store because they associate that bad taste with it. So that brings us to the endosperm. The endosperm is the part that most people, the only part that most people ever eat of the wheat, because this is white flour. And of course, you know exactly what white flour looks like after it's been bleached and things done to it. The endosperm is the largest part of the grain. It's about 3/4 of the wheat berry. Because it's been degerminated and D brand. It's had these parts taken away from it. It represents the empty calories, the simple carbohydrates in a lot of processed foods. And those are the types of foods that we want to avoid whenever possible. Now, one thing the endosperm has going for it is it does contain some proteins that play a very important part in bread making, and that's why we're having this discussion at all. Because they're very, very special proteins. They're unique to wheat and a few other grains that are used in bread making, wheat-related grains. And we're going to talk a lot more about those in detail in another lesson. Now, I would like to suggest to you that the best option for purchasing your wheat is to buy it the same way you buy your eggs. You know, you open the carton, you peek inside to check that they're all intact, that there aren't any cracks or smashed eggs in there. And so if at all possible, please consider, if not right now, if you're not ready for it now, sometime in the future, consider buying your grain only in its intact form. That means not buying it already smashed into flour, but buying it in the whole grain form. Otherwise, it's more than likely missing one of these other components.